After yesterday's talk on value propositions, I realized we really need to talk about the other two value propositions a lot more. Because I think a lot of the problems that we have going on today, whether it be anything from fighting over wearing coronavirus masks in public to race relations, really boils down to people not understanding value propositions and focusing on the two unsupportable value propositions. So how does understanding value propositions solve the problems that we have today? Oh, that coffee's good. So we got to think about the problems stem from the human heart. But if you wanted to listen to a sermon, you'd be listening to a pastor. So let's go beyond that and think about the value propositions, reasons why we have problems today, and focusing on the two impossible value propositions: more for less and less for more. So less for more, let's talk about that one first, because that's just fraudulent and theft. So with the less for more value proposition, a lot of times with market economics, this is going to get corrected by itself. Whenever you try to rent a house for too much money, you try to put your Airbnb up for too many dollars a night, then you're going to end up with a vacant house or with bad reviews on your Airbnb. That's one of the ways to kind of find where the market resistance level is by pushing that price up until you either don't get tenants in a rental house or you start getting bad reviews on an Airbnb. Then you've seen kind of where the ceiling price is for that item, and you can start backing it down. If you're scared of vacancies or you're scared of the negative social capital from bad reviews, you're never going to push those prices up and find how much they're worth, because you're not even going to wait for those bad things to happen. So when you're talking about a less for more value proposition in terms of the things that we're seeing today, I mean, you talk about people not valuing human life the same. You talk about people not valuing each other's freedoms the same. And so what one person sees as a same value in the case of human life, or someone sees as a higher value in the case of personal freedoms with a more conservative person, the other person doesn't see those values the same, and so they and so you end up with differing value propositions that no one ever addresses. If you want to see more about value propositions, check out yesterday's video on value propositions. I'll put the link down below, and I'll probably put it on a card up above, so that way you can link to it, because it'll make a lot more sense if you understand the four good value propositions before we start talking about the two impossible value propositions. And then what's traditionally called the impossible value proposition, because it's not possible to deliver, is the more for less value proposition. And this is the one that people promise a lot, but they can't deliver on, because you can't give people more for less. And so I think when we're talking about how that plays into today's environment, you have people that are hoping that they can get something that's not really a deliverable. So whenever politicians promise equality without some kind of pathway to get there, whenever politicians promise a healthy population without a good plan to get there, they're really delivering a more for less value proposition that in the market we know is impossible, but is a lot more plausible when you hear it in social circles, because that's what we all want. We all want more for less. None of us want less for more, except for the people profiting off it. And none of us as consumers, none of us as producers can deliver the more for less proposition, and we all want the more for less value proposition. Did I say that right? Yeah, as sellers, you always want the less for more, but it's not sustainable over the long term. And as consumers, we always want the more for less, but it's not sustainable for producers to offer over the long term. So neither of those two value propositions are possible over the long term, one for the consumer, one for the producer. But you can see how the other side definitely wants one of those value propositions. But when we're talking about like social things that are going on, I think we're not even contextualizing what the value is that we want to give and receive. And so we can't even frame it in a value proposition discussion. And instead, people just get really angry, assuming that other people's values are the same, or presuming that their value structure is inherently better than the other person's value structure, where really we just need to quantify our values. We need to have open discussions, realizing that everything is a give and take along a value proposition spectrum, agreeing on the value proposition that we want and moving forward. But when we're talking about real estate, hopefully those are helpful, because we need to understand the impossible value proposition, and what I would argue is the second impossible value proposition. Realizing that as a producer, we can never give more for less over the long term, and realizing that consumers will never accept less for more over the long term. So if we understand those value propositions, it's going to help us move forward, not just in your business, but also socially. So if you want to know how to get started in real estate investing, check out the course, the teachable course down below. I talk a lot about how to set goals in real estate investing. If you made it to the end of this video, you're probably interested in value. You're probably interested in creating value. So setting goals for your real estate investing business will definitely help you out. So check out that link in the course below. Like and subscribe to this channel so that way I stay motivated to push out some more good word.